I don't know. This really wonderful woman I know.
Oh, she's pretty cool.
Is she pretty cool?
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
It is too dark in here to shoot this video too. We're gonna brighten it up. Come on, let's get the light on. Let's come on. This album's dark and depressing. We're not gonna let that stop us. We're gonna have light. It's gonna be exciting. And I'm wearing my Melon shirt in honor of Needle Drop, saying that this album was awesome, because it is awesome and I look fucking ridiculous. Hello everybody. As from the intro, thank you for tuning in to ChannelBK. My name is RarXD and welcome to an album review of My Chemical Romance's third studio album, The Black Parade. My Chemical Romance, famous emo, alt-rock, power rock, pop-punk group. In my humble opinion, it is a very important album for the 2000s, for rock music, and also for myself as well. I remember back in middle school when I first got into them, this was the first album I got into them with. I had a friend of mine, Eric, show me their CD because Welcome to the Black Parade was huge. That song was just everywhere, and I remember I took his CD and listened to it. He let me borrow it, and then I forced my dad to buy this album for me, as you can clearly tell. I just remember getting this album and being so just intrigued by the sound of it, because again, this was around the era where stuff like this was coming out, and I was around 11 at the time, so my music palette was being impacted by things that, you know, maybe down the road it's kind of like, I don't know why I listened to that, or stuff like this that still sounds fucking amazing. Now, obviously, other than, you know, their debut album, which was really rough around the edges when they first came out after the 9/11 attacks, or something like 3 Cheers, which was a lot more faster, fast-paced, and sort of sporadic in its storytelling, The Black Parade sort of introduced a lot of really interesting elements in terms of the musical stuff that they did. There's obvious influences of like Pink Floyd's The Wall on here, some heavy Queen influences, as well as David Bowie. The influences lay all amongst this album, but they also keep the My Chemical Romance flair for great songwriting, some intense parts, but also dive into some really interesting stuff too. Basically, this album is a concept album, and the concept is about this guy that we only know as the patient. He goes to the doctor, he learns that he only has 2 weeks to live because he has cancer, and basically this album sort of chronologically puts into perspective stuff he's dealt with, past loves, him accepting his fate, him talking to loved ones, and it's a very heavy album, but again, it has some intense musical elements on here. It sounds great, it's produced super well, and it tells a really engaging thematic story, and it has easily one of the best finales on an album in my lifetime. We start with the end, which sort of, in a weird way, people might think it's sort of supposed to be the last song, but it's not. It really is the sort of significance of, yes, you're gonna die. It's gonna happen. Gerard has amazing vocals on this and the rest of the album. Obviously, Gerard is just an incredible vocalist in general, but I think this album definitely elevates it from just, you know, an emo band or whatnot. And I think it adds, again, like the influences that come into it, it adds a lot more interesting sort of post-rock elements, some hardcore grunge elements, it definitely, and some art rock stuff too. Like, it goes all over the place in terms of its influences that are laced throughout the album, and I think Gerard Way's vocals sound amazing over all of it, because he definitely sounds inspired by some of those people as well. And then we get to Dead, which starts it off with the flat line starting the whole thing and them just revving into here. This is a heavy, hard-hitting track. Again, just the chorus. Again, it's such a catchy album. It's such a well-layered album. But then the whole entire chorus talking about how, you know, you heard the news that you're dead and that nobody's gonna care about you after you die. Again, already immediately just going into these dark, heavy topics that, again, are laced on the album and sort of give this perception and this perspective for the patient to sort of reflect on his past life or her past life. This Is How I Disappear is sort of the beginning of many love tracks on this album. Again, it's this idea of a past lover that he's sort of being disconnected from, and then that goes into the hook, This Is How I Disappear. Again, this starts off heavy and hard-hitting, and again, like most My Chemical Romance tracks, or most things you can pull from them, it's fast and hard-hitting. The Sharpest Lives follows off that next track, and I love sort of, again, to the title of the song, I love the sharp, heavy guitars at the beginning, which then sort of go away a little bit as the track goes on. This song is actually interesting because it sort of sees the patient delving into how he got to this point, his vices, talking about like alcohol and drugs, and sort of this idea of him looking back on that and not really being regretful, but also realizing like there is some regret there, and to the fact of how he got to this position in the first place and how that might have been a big part of it. And yes, Welcome to the Black Parade. It's amazing. I get Queen inspiredness all over this track. I love the marching drums, like a marching band. I love the storytelling of this song. This idea that the patient is sort of reliving a past memory with him and his father, which is about him going to see this parade in town. But then the metaphor goes then to the Black Parade, which is death coming to visit him. And this song, again, as they explain in interviews, is their Bohemian Rhapsody. And I agree, it's epic. So many different elements to this song, so many different passages here. It's incredible, and it's anthemic, it's huge, it just sounds grand. Gerard sounds incredible on this song, and again, the combination of sort of the marching bandness and the slow tempos, then with the huge, just rushing in your face lyrics and guitar leads and drums, and then it sort of slows down into this anthemic march at the end. It's incredible. I Don't Love You, once again, is another love song. I really get a lot of influences from Coldplay's Yellow, mostly near the beginning, like it feels a lot like that. Not an insult, I love that song and I love Coldplay. I think I could tell there's some elements from that. And again, in the lyrics, he's basically begging this person to tell him, do you love me or not? Because I'm about to die, I want to get this over with, I want to sort of be able to get away from this. Just tell me or not. And the beggingness and just the emotion, again, with the lyrics and the storytelling, are only just heightened by Gerard's delivery, and it's incredible and it's heartbreaking. And then we get to something like House of Wolves, which is fast-paced in a different way. It is rigid, it is heavy, it is just super fast-paced, it's dark, way more darker than the stuff before it, and this is sort of the beginning of him sort of realizing if he's going to hell or heaven, and then how hell is starting to become a big part of the story at this point, which then we are followed by Cancer, which in my opinion is easily the most depressing track on the album. It is the patient sort of reflecting on how he got here, sort of where he is now, him sitting in this hospital bed, how he doesn't want to be seen by people, how he doesn't want to touch people because he feels like he'll get them sick. It's very emotional, very depressing. The storytelling is incredible. Gerard's somber delivery is great. I love the soft piano that opens it. It builds in a way. It builds just enough to where it's not over the top. It definitely fits with the anthemic sort of over-the-topness of the album and the grandness of it, but it doesn't go too much so the emotion doesn't get taken away. And the strings on this song, ooh, so beautiful. But then we are followed by Mama, which then again, fast paces it back up and it builds back up. Liza Minnelli shows up on this for a part. She sort of plays the mother war element, and this song could be taken a few different ways. Obviously when the lyrics start, it hits you right in the face with Mama, we're all going to hell. What this song is about, I've seen many interpretations. For me, if it goes to the concept of the album, it's maybe the patient sort of telling his mother, look, I've done terrible things, I've done this, but at the end of the day, we're all going to hell. That's where we're all going anyways. There's a lot of metaphors about it being obviously about a soldier. Maybe it's a metaphor of, you know, fighting with himself and his past and his now present. Some people have actually looked at it as like sort of a homophobic thing where the mother is actually anti-homophobic, which I think is actually very interesting. And the son's coming out to her like, I'm gay, but guess what? We're all going to hell anyways, Mom. I actually like that theory a lot. Sleep is once again sort of another acceptance of this depression and sort of this darkness over the main character telling others it's okay to go to sleep. Don't worry about me. You are trying to make me feel better and be like, it's okay, but I don't care about the stuff that I've done in the past. And the song sort of talks about night terrors as well. There's some vocal stuff from Gerard where when they recorded this record, they shot it in an apparent haunted mansion, and that stuff sort of lingers into the lyrics as well about not being able to get to sleep and feeling like you're always having nightmares and stuff. I thought it adds a lot again to it, and again, with a concept like this, there's so many really interesting personal influences into the album. Teenagers follows it up. This is a song I always was kind of on the fence with. I really like it. I love the sentiment, this idea of if you want to put it in the concept of the album, it's about the patient looking back and being like, when you're an adult, you sort of look at teenagers and be like, oh my God, get away. But when you're a teenager, you're sort of shocked as to why adults think the way of you. It's funny because there's a lot of stuff about this song that can be taken seriously. It also is very satiristic at a lot of parts. And this is a song that I think I've heard so much that I don't love. It's not terrible by any means. I love it on here and I think it sounds great. It's just definitely a track I've heard so much, but it's still really good, and I thought the sentiment and the adding it into the album is really interesting. Disenchanted, once again, super sad. Talks about the patient sort of talking about how, you know, life is a joke, and he is sort of looking at it and being like, oh, is there stuff to look back at that I can be proud of, or does this make me feel this way? And he's like, nah, it was all kind of stupid. But I do like the acoustic guitar opening. I like, again, like when I was talking about the Third Eye Blind album, I love a lot of the elements they use when it comes to switching it up every once in a while, so it's not just all fast-paced hitting in your face. I think it all fits really well, and again, it's a nice departure from the rest of the songs on the album to sort of slowly, somberly exit it out. And then Famous Last Words. Like I said, one of the greatest endings to an album ever. This album lifts you so much. Again, like Sleep Before, this song actually is influenced by the fact that Mikey, who is his brother, obviously part of the band, had to leave because he had anxiety attacks. It was too much. They kind of convinced him to come back when he wrote this song for him and about him. So again, adding these personal touches into the album. But again, at the end of the day, this is sort of part of the album where they leave it up to the listeners to say, hey, does he die? Does he move on? Does he fight through it and live? We don't know. But at the end of the day, it's cool that you get your own interpretation of it, but the big anthemicness that through this whole album about no one's gonna care about you dying, no one's gonna care about this, you did this, life's a joke, we're all going to hell, all of this, they still end it somewhat happily. It's not happy necessarily, but it's hopeful. And I like that a lot. And it ends it in a way, because whether or not he dies or whether or not he doesn't die, I think both have a really impactful meaning to what the whole album does as a whole. And then obviously the secret track, Blood, is a fun kind of old school throwback in terms of delivery from Gerard and lyrics and sound and whatnot. Again, what does this song really mean? Is it about the patient? Is it a sort of metaphor about the MCR fan base sort of delivering all this darkness? I don't know, but I think it kind of, again, changes things up from the rest of the darkness and kind of gives you a tad bit of breathing room. At the end of the day, once it's over, you're kind of like, wow, that just fucking hit me in the face. Obviously, back in the day, this wasn't my thing. This wasn't how I looked. But yes, I was this very awkward kid. Like, hopefully, you know, a lot of people out there. And this was an album that when it came out, it really resonated with me. Vocally and sonically, it was something that I've never heard before. It was dark, it was brooding, it was something that at that age I could say, yeah, I'm so edgy, blah, 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 but it really is perfectly handled. I love this album. I think it is easily one of the best rock albums I know of. I think Gerard and company just blew it out of the water in terms of them picking their influences perfectly for this album, but also sticking true to themselves. I think it obviously is a shame that they went away so we couldn't get more of this greatness, but hey, they just recently got back together, they're doing shows. It's weird to see them all old doing these songs, but at the same time, it's also really cool to see them come back and go back to songs that were incredible. Because here's the thing, if you think My Chemical Romance is, oh, for girls, blah, 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 shut the fuck up. This album's dope. This album is incredible. And you should give it a listen if you haven't listened to it. But if you have, what did you think of it? Leave it in the comments below. If you like and please subscribe. I know we've been having a lot of fun with all this stuff this week. Check the other classic reviews. We got one more. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for tuning in to ChannelBK. Peace out, guys.